Kristin,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for being on the Fear Being Average podcast.
Thanks for inviting
It's
me.
not easy to get on this thing. I'm turning down people left and right, but we're finding people that want to do this and want to share their story.
Well, I feel privileged.
Yeah. So we're at Scullhouse. This is your new place, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about obviously your background, because this is a rowing gym.
Yes.
Yes, I just had a dope class, by the way.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
honestly,
you.
it was really cool. I'm a huge fan of rowing and just kind of get into it. Like I said, full body workout. You're going to burn a lot of fat. You're going to be really strong, look good, and it's a great workout, right?
Yeah,
Energizing, good music. So big fan. So I'm excited. I know it's Toronto, I'm Burlington, but who knows how many times I can make it down here, right? So
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I'll do my best. So yeah, tell us your story a little bit, because like I heard your story at a 2.0 event recently, and it was really cool, and it was moving just from the sense that you were doing something you weren't 100% passionate about, and you moved and you took a chance opening up this thing.
Yeah.
So very cool. So give us a little background.
Sure. So I started rowing when I was in university. So I went to the University of Western Ontario, and I started rowing in my third year there. So it was my last year of undergrad, and I rowed novice for the year, thinking that, it would be fun for a year, and that was it. I was applying to law school in Toronto, so I knew I wouldn't be continuing with the rowing.
Okay.
So just thought, okay, I'll spend a year. It'll be fun to, do my last year, and then I'll take off and start law school and start the rest of my life. And I started rowing novice, and I thought, this is really fun. I really like this. This is too bad. I should have started earlier.
Yeah.
And had a lot of fun. And then that summer, so the summer before I started law school, I was invited to compete in Taiwan. So it was this race in Taiwan that.
Were you recruited at that point? Did you qualify?
Yeah. So the coach at Western, the way that it worked was the Taiwanese government would invite certain boats from all over the world. So the women from Western were invited to send a quad and a single. Cool. The men from U of T were invited to send an 8. That was the only, those were the only schools from Canada that were invited. And then they had a whole bunch of Ivy League schools from around the world. So Cambridge and Oxford and Princeton, Yale, Harvard, they all sort of sent boats. And then little Western Ontario, we got invited to send a boat. And the coach said, I think, Kristin, you've got a shot at making this boat. Oh, well, that's really cool. And so I ended up getting into rowing. I did my first year of law school at Osgoode and transferred back to Western so I could continue to row. And so really found a passion there, enjoyed rowing. Ended up, kind of after law school, going out and rowing on the Canadian national team. Was really enjoying my time, and was getting injured though. And so I kind of thought, okay, well, I've got this law degree. Why don't we start to practice law? And so I started to practice law, and was enjoying aspects of it. So I practiced corporate commercial litigation at one of the Seven Sisters, they're called here in the city. So it's one of the big Bay Street firms.
Yeah.
And so from the outside looking in, it's kind of like,
you made it.
You made it. Yeah. That's kind of the goal, right? To land one of those jobs. And
it's funny how we're programmed that way.
Yeah.
To think that's the next step. So you go to school, get a degree. Get the big job, fancy house, nice car, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then once you buy the fancy house and the fancy car, then you really are stuck, right?
You need more, yeah.
Because then you've got the mortgage and you've got the payments, and you can't leave at that point. Right?
It's true.
So I was always a little bit cognizant of that. I didn't want to sort of commit so much to the lifestyle that I wouldn't be able to make a change if I wanted to. And I kind of recognized, I think fairly early, that it might not be the right fit for me.
Because what was not working?
Looking ahead, sort of seeing where people 10 years, even 15 years out were with their career and what it required, it made me feel kind of defeated, because the things that I was struggling with, not having control over your own schedule, having to work on weekends, having to cancel vacations at the last minute, because law at the end of the day is a client service industry. And no matter how senior you are, depending on the type of law that you do, of course, but for the most part, you're always going to be subject to the demands of, the client's deals or the litigation that's happening, the court, timetable that's set. And so you really don't have a lot of control over your own time. And so for me as an articling student, it was, kind of the worst of the worst, because you go from, one file where everything is scrambling, and then as soon as that finishes, you're on to another, right? Once you become a lawyer, you kind of have a bit of downtime in between. because you have your caseload, your files.
Okay.
And so it becomes a little bit better, a little bit more manageable, a little bit more predictable. So I liked that aspect of it. That was better once I became.
How many hours is that still requiring?
We never like it when you quantify that, but lots.
Lots.
Right?
Don't give the secrets. I'll scare the shit out of people.
You're there.
Only 200.
Right? Like I'd be in the office by 8:30 every day, and if I was leaving by 8, that was the average day, and that was not a long day.
And how was that in terms of like you balancing your life in terms of like your physical? Were you still hitting the gym? Were you still able to get in, do your thing?
Yeah, so that was really tough for me, especially coming from the background where I had been training 2-3 times a day to sitting. And when I first started, I was terrified to try and have any sort of balance, right? Because you hear all these horror stories about how, it's articling and you've got to be putting in the time and the hours are super long, this is the expectation. And whether it is or not, that's, I think, often what
you adopt that kind of mindset, yeah.
Think, right? And so when I articled, I didn't exercise. And about a month and a half into my articles, my sciatic nerve went. And it was so irritated that I couldn't sit. I went to the hospital. They said, well, it's nerve pain. There's not a whole lot we can do. I was off work for a week. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sit. I was in agony. I was terrified. Because it was the most pain I've ever been in. And at least most of the time when we're in pain, there's an answer. With nerve pain, there's really nothing that can be done. So I was seeing a naturopath, and they gave me a few things that started to help eventually. And about a week later, it got to the point where finally I could sleep and I could walk around and function. And after that, I thought, well, I need to be doing something. I clearly can't just do nothing. So I started with Pilates because I couldn't do anything else at that point. But it was so bad.
So Pilates, it's like stretching / like is there any other elements?
It's strengthening. So
okay.
it really focuses on the deep core muscles. So when we're thinking about doing a crunch, you're kind of getting the superficial layer of your core muscles. When you do Pilates, when you're on a reformer, when you're on, there's another piece of equipment called the Cadillac. It's really fun. You can hang upside down and stuff.
I saw that.
Yeah. So when you're using those machines, you're using arms and legs together, but the core really as a stabilizer, and you're able to be getting a little bit deeper into those core muscles. Cool. So when I started to activate my core muscles again, it started to stabilize everything, and my sciatic nerve started to calm down. Then from that point, I eventually, and we're talking over a period of about 6 months, started to be able to get back on the ERG, which is the indoor rowing machine. So I'll probably slip into that terminology.
Yeah, the urge for the ERG.
Yeah. I've always had an urge for the ERG.
You have to.
As a rower, you certainly do.
Absolutely.
And so once I started ERGing again, I really noticed a huge difference in terms of how often my sciatic nerve would start to get irritated. I think for me, when I was maintaining some level of fitness, especially on the ERG, it engages a lot of your core muscles. So then when I was sitting in my chair at my desk, I was sitting with better posture. I wasn't slouched as much. I tended to sit almost as though I was perched on the front edge of my seat rather than slouching, sitting back. Right, exactly, as we kind of straighten up here ourselves. And when you're sitting for 12 to 15 hours, sometimes 17 hours a day, it adds up. And so by the time I was done my articling, I was starting to find my groove with, maintaining some balance with fitness. And then as I went back as a practicing associate, so your articling term is 10 months, and then after that, you either get offered a position or not. And then you're hired back on as a full lawyer. So when I accepted the offer to go back to the firm that I was with, I made myself a promise that I wasn't going to work so hard that I sacrificed my health.
You weren't going to neglect areas that were important for you.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I'm going to work out every morning, because at the end of the day, you kind of can't fit it in. If people see you at the office, you start to, people will ask you questions about a file, they ask you to do something else, you just get stuck.
I think people need to do that. They need to take the time. I did a podcast with self-awareness the other day, and I'm going off on a rant. But just you have to be self-aware enough to know, okay, if nighttime isn't going to work for me, either I'm too tired, too lethargic, I have no energy, I have responsibilities, I got to go home to the family, I got to cook dinner, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Realize the time frame I have is the morning then.
Yeah.
And then make time for that. It's a non-negotiable. I go to the gym, I take care of my body, take care of my mind, so I'm more productive, and have that kind of long-term understanding.
Yeah, for sure. And that was what I was trying to do. So I recognized, okay, it's got to be morning. And so my routine would be I'd get up at, 6 or so. I'd be at the gym before 7. I'd work out until about 8. And then I was in
Were
the
you
office
typically rowing at this point, or were you adding
I was
weight training as well?
I've never been a fan of
weight training.
I probably shouldn't admit that. But,
get on it.
It's, I think we have to kind of know our own bodies.
Sure.
And I'm a big believer in doing what works for you. So I have a body that gets tight very quickly.
You put muscle on too very quickly?
I put muscle on very quickly. And this is not, for all the women listening, I'm not an average woman in that way. Right? Like,
no,
I
you're not.
Not
average. Wouldn't be here if you were average. Put booty off here years ago.
And so, I think for most women, we can be doing weights and don't be afraid.
But I don't want to scare women either, because that happens a lot. They're like, I don't want to go near the weights, and they're doing treadmill to tone up, and I'm like,
no, you got to do some weights, right?
Yeah, well, you're rowing. Rowing is a full body engagement.
Yeah. So the rowing machine is strengthening, but it's strengthening in a way that works for me. So you're taking your muscles through a wide range of motion. You're staying long as you're doing it. So I find I feel better because I don't tighten up as much. So anybody that looks at me typically thinks I do weights because I have a fair amount of muscle, but I don't, because my body doesn't, I don't like the way I feel when I do it. So for me, I like the way I feel when I row. So for the most part, I was erging. It was super efficient. I didn't have sort of an hour and a half to spend at the gym to kind of, okay, I'm going to do all of, these weight exercises to make sure that I'm tapping into all of these muscle groups, and then I'm going to do my core, and then I'm going to do my stretching, and then I'm going to, which is to have a holistic approach. That's often what it takes. For me, rowing, it works 87% of the muscles in your body. It's cardio training, it's strengthening, and it's lengthening at the same time. So I would row for about 45 minutes, typically. I might break that up, so it would be, I'd do 15-minute pieces or maybe 19-minute ladders or something to keep it more interesting. And then I might do a little bit of an elliptical or a little bit of, a stair climber or something. And then I would just do some stretches and some core work, and that was it. So I was pretty boring in terms of my fitness routine. It was pretty static, but it worked for me. It, gave me the benefit mentally of making sure that I was staying clear, clearing my head, working out. And physically, it really helped with dealing with the long hours of sitting.
Awesome. Like we talked about, rowing really is. You look at rowers, that's a good understanding of how rowers look, right? And what you'll probably look like if you do it.
Yeah,
they're
depending
strong.
on how much you do it.
Sure, they're strong.
Yeah.
Minimal fat.
Yeah.
And they have great aerobic capacity,
yeah.
right? So it's these things are they're secrets out there, right? So if you want that full body, more efficient workout, it's I've been usually said the last few months I've really kind of adopted it. My last month, my challenge was 3,000 meters of rowing a day. So nothing too crazy, right? It was just 30 days of a little bit of rowing, but you felt good. It was a great finisher.
Yep.
Great way to open up the day or whatever, right? So it was pretty cool.
Oh, great! I'm excited.
Yeah.
You're rowing. This is perfect. We just need more people on the rowing
train.
I do think, especially so many people, right? We're sitting for so much of our day.
That's what I want people to realize how detrimental sitting down all day long is, and how you can move your body in an efficient manner in the gym if you're not someone who's into weights either, because it's not one size fits all. You need to find what works for you. If it's a chore to go to the gym, I tell people all the time, if it's a chore to go into the gym, you will find a reason not to go. I'm a disciplined dude. If I find something to be a chore, I'll find a reason not to go in that day, right? So you need to make it enjoyable. Either you're growing or you're seeing progress, or it's fun, it's dynamic, it's stimulating. And find what works for you, right? Some people, it's like Pilates. I still always incorporate resistance training in some form. But even that, you're engaging those muscles. So if rowing's your thing, when you can incorporate that 1 or 2 times a week, that's huge, right? Keep it exciting. Get that dynamic workout going for yourself. So,
and I think that the position and the posture that you're in when you're rowing is particularly helpful for counteracting the sitting posture, right? Because when we're sitting, we're sort of rounded forward.
So to go over that, because I was very fascinated when you talked at the event the other week of the positioning of rowing, because I was like, oh my god, I teach classes, but like it's kind of like an overall fitness class.
Yeah.
And there's a rowing aspect.
Yeah.
And typically we're like, all right, guys, you're gonna drive through the legs, and you just give that bare minimum explanation, like chest up and stay tall.
Yeah.
But sometimes you forget like the hinging of the hips and how to like obviously the elbows. Like I told you, I went to the gym and I saw some girl and I kind of gave her a correction. She probably like maced me afterwards.
I love it.
But you know what I mean? Like, but it was stuff that like it made a difference for me. Like even today, like I was so light in the hands. Usually you're gripping on to that thing and you're like giving a huge big pull.
Yeah.
But here, like this is loose. Yeah. Right? And it's cool how much power you can get by just really generating the glutes and the hamstrings and like that, right? Yeah. So go over the form because it's very interesting.
So from the seated position, right from the angle of the pelvis, really we want to think about the pelvis being slightly anteriorly tilted. So picture the pelvis sort of coming forwards and down a little bit. So it's fairly close to neutral, right? We don't want this to be totally exaggerated. We're not arching the back, but we do want to think about the tailbone being out behind us. The core is stabilizing. So the core, as we're rowing, is doing so much work. We're not squeezing it the same way we are if we're doing a crunch, but it's engaged, it's braced. And then we're sitting up nice and tall. The shoulders are down, away from the ears, and we're thinking about kind of slightly squeezing those shoulder blades together, and that helps us engage those lats as well. So we're really opening through the chest and through the back, which is the complete opposite of what we're doing when we're rounded and hunched forward on our desk or now on our smartphones, even if we're spinning, sometimes if we're running, right? And so it's a great exercise to kind of open up and strengthen the opposite muscles that are being taxed when we're sitting. We always want to think about the alignment of the head and the neck. We want the crown of the head to be reaching up towards the ceiling. The neck is relaxed. So we like to say that from the chest up, everything is light and loose. And then from chest down, everything is working and engaged. 60% of the power in the rowing stroke comes from the legs. 60. Yeah. So a lot of people, when they first come in and pick up rowing, they're thinking, oh, I've really got to think about executing that pull. But it's really not the pull. It's really the push, the press of those legs into the foot stretchers. And then the core, as we're sitting up nice and tall, the core is the connection between that leg drive and the handle. So if that core isn't engaged, my leg drive is never going to translate to the handle, right? I mean, it just kind of gets lost in this bowl of jello. But if my core is on and engaged, then the power from the legs transfers right through to that handle. And the arms have to be loose for that to happen. If you're squeezing and if you're holding those arms with lots of tension, power gets lost in there, right? And it doesn't make it to the handle. Only a fraction of it does. So the more relaxed we think about being through the upper body, the more of that leg drive that transfers through. Interesting. It's sort of it's engaged but loose, right? Engaged but loose. And then we've got 20% coming from the core and the back, and then the remaining 20 coming from arms and shoulders. And the arms and shoulders are really just the finisher, thinking about the acceleration of the handle into the body. At the end of the stroke, we always want to think about swinging the shoulders forward. So that's the hinge of the hips that you touched on. And that's really important because that sets up that body angle for the next catch, which is the position that we drive from. So if we're not finding that hinge forward from the finish, then typically what happens, and I know it's kind of hard to picture if you're just listening, but we want the shoulders to be in front of the hips because if our shoulders are behind the hips, our center of gravity is away from the legs. When we swing those shoulders up and over, all of a sudden we're compressed and our center of gravity is right up on top of those legs. So that from our catch position, we're getting a lot more power and it's a lot more explosive out of the drive. Cool. So that's sort of our alignment when we're rowing. But I feel like we totally got sidetracked from your original question, which was how I opened Scullhouse. And
valuable stuff, though. This is necessary to hear. Okay.
Right. But so you see, I love talking about rowing.
Yeah.
I think rowing is just so great. And so I was working. And
you open up a place, you better like.
Yes, for sure. I row every day now.
Yeah.
And so I was working and still rowing.
By the way, just so you know, after you finished the class, what did you do? You did.
I did 6 by 500 meters.
6 by 500, jeez.
So they're basically kind of like 2-minute pieces.
I mean, you were flying, like.
I was pushing hard.
My standard for sure, flying.
I was pushing hard. Yeah. Well, I've got a race coming up in about a week and a half, and so I'm trying to do my last little bit of prep for that race that I'm doing.
What's the race?
It's called Crash Bees. It's in Boston, and it's sort of the unofficial World Indoor Rowing Championships.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've really kind of tried to push myself. And this past Sunday was the Canadian Indoor Rowing Championships, and we had a whole bunch of athletes from Scullhouse that
awesome.
went. And some of our athletes had never rowed before, October, and they were coming in and starting.
Never rowed.
They had never rowed.
Wow.
And so, I mean, for them, it was really about just getting to a start line, doing something different, building confidence, knowing that they could finish
So
it.
how could they get to that point in 4 months? So is it that
there's no qualifying time that you have to make.
Okay.
So it's open to anybody.
Did they do well?
They did do well. Yeah, one of them got a second place medal. She'd never rowed before October.
That's crazy.
And
how old
then
is
she is, I think, 74.
No.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it just shows that and this could be part of her life until she dies, realistically,
yes.
like the next 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
She's rowing maybe 104, she can get there.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
it's
there was
wild.
one guy that was there who was 84 years old.
That's
one of our members is 80, and he raced.
And that's why I preach so much. I advocate. It's like, go outside your comfort zone. Try something new. Like, you do not know what you're going to fall in love with, what you're going to like, what's going to stimulate you. Because I think so many people are programmed towards comfort, right? It just is what it is. We feel pain, we feel fear, uncertainty. We're scared of that, right? So we run away.
Yeah.
And so we keep ourselves from doing a lot of cool, interesting, exciting things in life.
Yeah.
And it just gives you the opportunity. If you do something, you love it. It's like that could be part of that could be a new identity in some sense for you. You can build a community and build social connections and achieve things and accomplish things and grow confidence. And like, some people limit that ability to see that for themselves. And here we are, a 74-year-old woman and an 85-year-old man. Like, it's insane. And it's something people need to adopt. They need to go outside, challenge themselves. I try to do it every day in some realm. You're not going to pick a new thing every day.
Yeah.
But like, give yourself quarterly goals. I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
You might love Pilates. You might absolutely hate Pilates. You might love rowing. You might hate rowing, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
But don't say I'm not going to do it, because it could be a huge aspect of your life moving forward.
Yeah. And I do think that there's an important distinction as well between, maybe you don't love every workout. I didn't love when I was doing
that's
6 by 500
People
meter
think that you're a gym person.
Right? Like,
every workout I'm jacked up to do.
I don't love the pain that I feel, but what I do love is looking back, and I feel a sense of accomplishment for having gotten through that workout. I didn't stop after 4 of the 6 500 meter pieces. I did all 6 of them, and I'm proud of myself because I did that. And I think that when we limit our challenges in a day, when we limit the new things that we take on, we shortchange ourselves because we don't give ourselves the chance to feel proud of ourselves. We don't give ourselves the chance to grow. And growth comes from discomfort sometimes, right?
A lot of the times.
Yeah. And if we're not giving ourselves those opportunities, I think that we really don't allow ourselves to see what we're capable of. So we have one member who, the first time he came in, and I love using him as an example, he knows I do.
What's his name? Throw him out there. Maybe he'll listen and share it to millions.
His name is Chris Job, and I am so proud of him.
Steve Jobs?
No, Chris Job. And so the first time that he came in, his technique was pretty bad. And so we actually pulled an erg out of the classroom.
Kicked him out of the class.
No, I did not kick him out of the class, but we pulled an erg out of the classroom afterwards, and we worked on it for a little while because
cool.
I want you to be safe, and I want you to get this.
Yeah.
And he came back, and he started working at it. And he said, okay, I'm going to come twice a week. And he started coming twice a week. And then we started this 2K training group. I thought, you know what? This terrifies me, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this. And I learned after he'd been coming for about 6 months that he shows up about an hour before class starts, and he goes to the Tim Hortons down the street, and he mentally prepares for class because it's a challenge. He knows it's going to be a challenge. And so he gets himself into the right headspace to attack that challenge. And now that he's been doing this for almost 2 years, the confidence that he has, the health benefits, his doctor even said, what are you doing? Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Your blood pressure is lower, and all of these things that are, happening internally. His doctor knew that something had changed.
Sure.
He is standing with more confidence, with better posture. You can tell that he has a stronger core.
Yeah.
And last year when he raced, it was a huge feat for him to just get there and do a race. Get to the start line and finish it. This year, he finished 20 seconds faster than he did last year, which in rowing is pretty big. That's a big number. And he tackled it with so much more confidence. That is what I'm talking about. That kind of growth. And had he kind of said the first time that he came into class, oh geez, that was hard for me and I'm clearly not a natural at it, and then just said, okay, well, I'll keep looking for something that works better.
Yeah, that's
and
easy.
He never would have had that opportunity.
Yeah, I like how you hinted on that, because you're gonna suck when you first start. You might not be the worst, you might not be, but you're not gonna be the best most likely. It's not always gonna be easy, but it doesn't mean that it's not for you.
Yeah.
Again, my challenge last year, when I tried new things, the whole idea, I wrote blogs on when I first swam, I was a terrible swimmer.
Yeah.
Head of the water, one lap, I was donezo.
Yeah.
But you learn and you adapt. Your body gets to that point. You shouldn't be surprised if you suck at it.
Yeah.
You should be surprised if you're good at it.
Yeah.
So go in knowing this is gonna be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck.
It's a process.
And it's a process, and we're gonna get there. You're gonna invest in coaches, invest in people that are gonna help you.
Yep.
And it will come.
Yeah.
Trust the process,
yes.
right?
Trust the process.
You have to trust it. If you don't, you're gonna miss so many opportunities to live a much more fulfilling life for sure.
Which I guess is kind of a nice segue into,
fulfilling life.
The challenge that I sort of accepted when I left law, because
So you did the vacation. Let's talk about that.
I did the vacation.
You went away, right?
Yes.
Everyone thought you were gonna quit.
Yeah. So I think I had 4 weeks of vacation that you could take a year.
Okay.
And then you're allowed to carry any unused vacation over for a couple months into the new year. I think you have until the end of March or something, right? And so I think I had about 6 weeks of vacation that I needed to use by the end of March. And this was the beginning of January. And I thought, well, I've got a big decision here. I know that I have a future here doing this, but I know that it doesn't make me feel really excited. I feel a little bit trapped. And I feel as though I'm not necessarily growing as a person the way that I want to be, and I don't feel as though I'm helping other people. And so for me, that was something that I was really struggling with, because I wanted to feel that connection to other people, and I didn't have that. So I decided, well, I've always wanted to be a yoga teacher, so I'm going to sign up and go do yoga teacher training in Costa Rica. And it was about 3.5 weeks. So I took basically 4 weeks of vacation. Everyone's like, what? Because you don't actually take your vacation.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you get 4 weeks of vacation. That's awesome. Yeah, but maybe get 4 days here, maybe get 3 days here, and for the most part, you never take your 4 weeks together. And so I just
blacklisted in the law community. Yeah.
No, I don't want to. I loved the firm that I was at, and they were great people to be working with. But it's a hard business, right? And when you are on a whole bunch of files, it's very rare that you can step away from those files for that long. And it just so happened that a bunch of my files had sort of come to a close, and it worked out in a whole host of ways. So I took my 4 weeks. And so I think when I took that 4 weeks of vacation, people thought, oh, okay, something's up with Kristin. And I went, I did my yoga teacher training, which was kind of a wonderful group of people to be surrounded by when you're thinking of making a big life-changing decision. Because for the most part, people that are there are also in a similar boat, right? Often they're taking their yoga teacher training because they want to make a change, they want to start teaching, or they want to kind of challenge themselves by taking on something new, adding something. Maybe they're not necessarily becoming a full-time yoga teacher, but maybe they want to be adding that into their life. So people were very supportive, and the teachers that run the school actually offered me a job teaching yoga.
In Costa Rica?
Yeah, so they said, well, if you're not going back to law, we could hire you. You could become a yoga teacher here at the school. Well, I've got to go back to my family,
Yeah.
but thank you. So that was a nice little vote of confidence.
For sure.
And I think having this space away from law was helpful because when you're in an environment, you and I were talking about this a little while ago, when you're in a certain environment, your mindset starts to change and you become used to what is normal there. And what's normal in one environment might be very abnormal to a lot of people outside of that environment. You might think that being at the office by 7 a.m. and leaving at 9 p.m. is normal. People that work 9 to 5 would not find that normal. But within your group of colleagues, that could be. And so it's, I think, sometimes nice to be able to take a step back, to have a little bit of perspective when you're evaluating your life and your choices and whether or not you're happy.
Yeah, and not hear the noise from that environment, right?
Yeah.
Just have your own time.
Yeah, for sure. So I had a lot of quiet, except for the screaming monkeys that were, what were they called? I can't remember the name of them, but they were these monkeys that actually screamed.
At night or like
At
just
night.
home?
Yeah. They're not all night long. But they were, howler monkeys.
Howler monkeys.
Howler monkeys. That's what they're called. And they actually do make these crazy noises. The first time I heard them.
Must have been
What
exciting
is
the
that?
first time you heard it though, right?
Yeah.
You're probably like, holy shit.
Yeah, I'm in the jungle.
Yeah.
But so it was a wonderful opportunity, wonderful experience. And then I came back and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I had, before I took the month off to go to yoga teacher training, I went down to the States and I visited a few of these indoor rowing gyms that had opened up. So it was a concept that had started in the States before anybody had started it in Canada. Went down and checked things out and I thought, okay, this is interesting. There's something that could work here. I didn't think that I would do things exactly the way that these other spots had, but I thought people are certainly responding to it, and I believe that rowing is a wonderful exercise for people. I believe it's so efficient, and so many people are cramped for time. We're all thinking about efficiency in life. So I thought rowing makes sense, right? Why not do one thing that's cardio, strengthening, lengthening, and 87% of the muscles in your body all at once? That makes sense to me. And so went down, tested it out, thought, I think I can improve this concept. So I was thinking about making that switch, leaving law, and opening my own gym. I had no idea what I would call it at the time.
How did you come up with Scullhouse?
Well, sculling is the kind of rowing that I did. So there are two types of rowing.
Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, exactly. And which is kind of a cool story, right? Because at first we have some skulls positioned around the gym. Yeah. And people will see the skulls.
That's like a burial ground or something.
Yeah. And they're thinking, oh, it's just kind of hardcore. But there's a reason why it's spelled with a C and not a K.
You come in here, it's like a nice tease. It's very nice. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. But we do have sweatshirts with a skeleton,
cool.
Rowing, which is kind of fun. So there's sweep rowing and sculling. And in sweep rowing, you have two hands on one oar. And so the oar is out to either one side of the boat or the other. So you're either a port rower or a starboard rower. With sculling, each hand is in control of one oar. And as a lightweight rower in Canada and competing internationally, you focus on sculling because there's only one sculling event for lightweights at the Olympics. Mm-hmm. It's the lightweight double. And so the national team program really focuses on sculling for lightweight women. So as a sculler, that was the majority of what I did. And so I liked thinking about, okay, so sculling was the Scullhouse part of it. But I liked combining that with house because for me, I wanted Scullhouse to be a space where people felt supported, where they felt they were part of a community, where they felt it was a very inclusive atmosphere. I think sometimes gyms can be very intimidating. Mm-hmm. And I don't even like to really refer to us as a gym. I call us a fitness studio, but we're really are more of just a community of people that are doing something together. And I like to think, and I hear from people, and that makes me feel very proud, that they always feel welcome. And we have people that are insanely accomplished athletes who are pulling, some of the best times on the erg in their age categories. And then we have people who are just getting on the erg for the first time, and everybody feels supported and encouraged in class.
That's massive.
And that, for me, is what I wanted to be able to create a space that is supportive, encouraging, and challenging, still challenging, but challenging not in a way where we're putting people down, where we're lifting them up, and where we all do that together. And so I love it when I come in and, there's somebody new and the person beside them is now talking to them about how they should set up their machine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is
That's
it.
cool.
This is happening.
Well, it's like a cycle, right? Because probably the
Yeah.
first time they came in, they got that experience. So you
Yeah.
want to pass it on. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing to do. That's the culture, right? So,
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I'm really, really proud of that. And so, yeah, it was, that's the name Scullhouse. But so I came back from my yoga teacher training and I thought, you know what? If I don't do this, I will regret it. And that's one thing that I've always tried to, I guess, live my life by that sort of checkpoint. If I don't do this now, looking back when I'm 90, would I regret it?
Most people do.
And 100%. I think you always regret the chances that you didn't take, right? I don't think if you put yourself out there and you try and you really believe in it, are you really going to feel like you regretted taking that chance if you believed in why you did it? So I thought, if I don't do it, I will certainly regret it. And maybe it's not going to work. Maybe I'm just a crazy person that loves rowing and other people are not going to have the urge to erg the same way that I do. But thankfully, people are taking to it.
Yeah.
And so it was really scary to do that. I left law and it took me about a year to kind of find the space and negotiate the lease and do the build out and everything else. And so I think it was about 2 years to the day that I left that we officially opened the doors.
Cool.
So it was a long process.
Yeah.
But there was lots going on.
What did you do in the meantime? Were you still working in law?
No, so
or
I
you
left.
Were just fully invested in building everything
Yeah,
up?
so I left, and the first sort of step was I had to write a business plan, and I don't come from a business background, so I had to Google, how do you write a business plan? What is in a business plan? And figured out how to write a business plan, and then I had to sort of secure my financing, and then I had to secure the lease, and then the build out process took about 8 months. So it was a long process and it was quite busy.
And how do you stay either motivated or like not overwhelmed to that point? I think for a lot of people, they don't give themselves a shot to like invest in 6 months and they get overwhelmed, they get stressed out, and they start panicking.
Yeah, I think accepting that it will be a stressful period, right? I think sometimes when we start to feel stressed or we start to feel overwhelmed, we get a lot more anxious because we think, oh, geez, I'm not in control of this, right? And I'm not doing a good job because I feel overwhelmed or because I feel stressed. And I think that when you give yourself permission to feel overwhelmed and you give yourself permission to feel stressed, because what you're doing is really big and what you're doing is really hard. And there are going to be some days where you feel like you're on top of the world and things are kind of working out. And you're like, yeah, today was a good day. And then tomorrow might not be, and that's okay. And I think knowing that that's part of the process, for me, I found that to be very helpful. Knowing that there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days. Having a family that was supportive really helped. My mom was a single mom, raised 2 kids. So for her, when she heard that I was leaving my, good, secure job to start this startup, that was a bit for her to get her head wrapped around.
Yeah.
But she was on board and she supported me. And thankfully, my partner, who's now my husband, but at the time was not, he was supportive and said, you know what, like we can make this work. We can give you a period of time to focus on that. And that was really helpful, and I think even if you only have one person that is going to be sort of a cheerleader for you, having one person who can be there to kind of help lift you up, because you are going to have days where you have doubts. And that's when that person can kind of be your, support. And then there can be other days where you're doing fine and you can, be telling yourself all the right things. But I think recognize that you're not going to be able to do that every day. Yeah. And you need to have some support around you.
For sure.
So for me, that was a big one.
Yeah. And having a balance, I feel, right?
Yeah.
Like keeping that balance going while you're doing it, not just like being all in, meaning all in, like you're fully invested, but it doesn't mean you neglect the other areas of life that you'll start seeing decline, and then that will kind of make you lose confidence and add even more stress to your life, right? So keeping that balance while you're grinding, investing in yourself is huge.
Yeah. So we actually got a puppy when I left law.
There you go. That's a solution.
And so
bring the puppy in.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I was having a bad day, and then I play with my puppy, and I know he needs a walk, so I've got to get outside.
Yeah.
Had to take him to the park, and so it forced me to have some balance, and so I think it was actually really beneficial, especially going from.
Everyone should get a puppy, though. I agree.
Puppies are wonderful.
They are.
They do require a lot of attention
Yeah.
and help. So don't get a puppy if you don't have the time to take care of it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was great, especially because I was going from working in an office where you're surrounded by people all the time, and sure, it was the work could sometimes be isolating. You're in your office and you're working away, but I was now working at home, and nobody else was home during the day, so I was totally by myself. I think that having the dog there with me, his name is Watson, having Watson there with me, he really did keep me company, and I didn't feel quite as lonely. So that was, a good way of finding balance for me. And I made sure that I was going to the gym every day. And I kind of, I knew it was important just to maintain the balance, but I also thought, well, I've got to make sure that I'm in, good shape to be opening this. And I knew when I would be opening, I would be teaching the vast majority of the classes. So I wanted to make sure that I was as strong and ready to kind of tackle that challenge.
And that's your image, it's your brand too. People see you, and if you're the person opening up, they want to see somebody who has that background, that knowledge, that expertise, and they look the part, right? Like, you have a big smile. Obviously, you're a very personal person, but it's nice to kind of see, okay, this person can back up what they're doing, and you're going to motivate them through your classes, right? The ones you teach. So
I like them to know that I'm, pulling hard right along the side with them.
For sure.
And that we're kind of all in it together. And I wanted to make sure that I'd be able to do that. So that was kind of how I found, my balance going through it. And you're right that to make sure that you're not neglecting those other aspects of your life is really.
I feel a lot of people fall into that trap. They get so busy with work, or we talked about off the bat, like they think they get in after work, but then they're so tired after work and they get called in or whatever the case is, and it just snowballs.
Yeah,
it's a cycle of shit.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse and worse. And all of a sudden, not only are you stressed at work, now you're eating like crap, so you're feeling like crap. You have no energy. You're lethargic.
Yeah.
And you don't look as good, so your confidence starts lacking. Yeah. And you start slouching. And
then you feel badly about yourself.
You do.
Because you think, here I had these goals and I'm not doing it. And I wanted to eat healthy and I'm not doing it. And then you kind of feel defeated.
Yeah. And it's too hard at that point to spin it around almost, because it's now you've put so much weight on you.
Yes.
You're buried.
Yeah.
So doing anything ambitious is out of the question. It's like, whoa, if I can't take care of this aspect, let's do something so mindless that I don't got to think about anything, and ambition is the last thing that is on my in front of my mind, right? So it's a shame.
I think sometimes too, what sort of exacerbates that problem is the all or nothing mentality, right? And we have one cookie and then we think, oh, well, today's shot, so I may as well have 4 more. Well, one cookie didn't mean that today was shot. Maybe 2 cookies didn't even mean that today was shot. But if you sit and eat half a bag of cookies, okay, well, then maybe today's kind of shot. Right? Well, today wasn't your best day. But even that's okay. But I think it's recognizing that you can have these little slips, and it's just taking one step in a positive direction. So, okay, maybe you ate 4 cookies. Well, maybe now go and have an apple.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't make it a whole day event.
Have some fiber and change things and start to change the direction right then and there. And a lot of people...
But people wait for that. They wait for the Monday. If they miss their Monday workout, they're like, whoa.
Gotta wait till next Monday. And I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. And the same thing with people that don't work out in the morning because they say, well, but I'm not a morning person. Kristin, you must be a morning person. You were a rower. You got up at 4:30 in the morning. You've got to be a morning person. Well, I probably am at this point after years of getting up in the morning. But I certainly wasn't to begin with. And don't get me wrong. When my alarm goes off in the morning, I have the same thoughts that everybody else does. Not already? Like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I just want
people think you just like sprint out of the door and like ready to go.
Oh, ready to go. Okay, teeth brushed. Here we go. No, I'm like, oh boy. Okay, here we go. But you do it. And when you tell yourself that it's not a choice, that this is just what you do, that this is my routine, this is, what I do on a Monday, or it's what I do on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday or every day or whatever it is, it becomes easier. Yeah. It really does.
It's a habit at that point, right?
Yes.
It's non-negotiable. It's like, oh, Wednesday I do this.
Yes.
Thursday I do this, right?
And eliminate the chances to fail.
Yeah.
Right? Eliminate the choices that you have to make. Don't give yourself a choice, because decisions and making the right decision is hard.
But you see people that they know they're not accountable to themselves.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, you need to invest in someone. Either you invest in yourself, invest in a coach. You need to create more certainty in your life, because you are unable to have the willpower to actually hold yourself accountable. So you need to take the time to understand, okay, right now, maybe I don't need a trainer for the rest of my life necessarily, but I need to do something right now. Like me doing it on my own is not working.
Right.
It's been 3 years. I'm still out of shape. I still feel like shit. Your method is wrong. Yes, it's not working for you right now. So what has to change? If you're not a morning person, you can't get out of the bed in the morning. Well, maybe you gotta get someone to hold you accountable for that. You know, if you're not able to get in after work, if you're finding excuses not to get in after work, but you can't get out, like, you need to do something. Like, there's always going to be reasons. Like, when I worked at a gym and sell training, and I was like a madman about selling training. Like, you get a membership, I'm like, all right, that's step one. Now we're buying training today. And I was such an advocate of it, and I would press so hard. Most people would respect it because you build that rapport, but you'd have to get honest with them and be like, break down their day, what's not working, what hasn't worked for you in the past, and then you need to give them that formula to succeed. You know, and people shouldn't be offended by that. And I'll tell my friends, I'm doing like a boot camp recently, and I'm like, guys, like, you should be part of this boot camp. And he's like, oh my god, no, like, there's always a reason. There's always going to be a reason not to do something. It's like, I don't need to hear that shit. Like, it's exhausting me. Like, it mentally drains me. Because I can give you 5 reasons why you need to or why you can't do it. You know? So.
And it's deciding what's important to you, right? If it's important enough, then you'll find the things that you need to help yourself execute those things. And maybe it's just signing up for a class. Because you know you're going to lose the money that you paid for that class if you don't go.
For sure.
Maybe you need a little bit more. So maybe it's, you know, having someone who's going to be your workout buddy, whether it's a trainer, whether it's, you know, a friend that you commit, we're going to do this together. But I completely agree in finding those things that will help hold yourself accountable, will help you, you know, execute on the goals that you have for yourself.
A lot of people find themselves in that rut, and they don't, and it's too late, right? It's 5, or not too late, but they get down that, it's a lot. It's exhausting to think about changing it. It becomes such a task, right? Losing 100 pounds is a lot more of a task than losing 20 pounds. And keeping that 20 pounds off, and then doing something fun and energizing rather than trying to lose 100. It's the people that do that, big props, right? If you can lose that weight and get back on track, but it's not easy, right? And the older you get, like, this shit compounds. Like, I read this book, Compound Effect, and it was like mind-boggling stuff. Everything compounds. You put money aside weekly, and there's a compound interest between that. You'll see what happens in 20 to 30 to 40 years. And you're like, what the hell? You putting this much money away can get me this with like a 6% annual return? Like, holy shit. It's the small things that people neglect, and they think the years aren't going to catch up to them. I get a lot of people talk about, you know, like, I don't care about, like, you know, dying younger. You know, I just want to live life, you know? It's not about dying younger. It's having the shitty years prior to dying. You're not going to die tomorrow. You might, but it's probably pretty shitty in the process. You're probably going to feel tired, have aches and pains. Like, I'm an in-shape person. I still feel aches and pains here and there. So you need to be like, you need to fix these things. Like, they're not going to get any better. You can't hope for better. You need to change and get better.
And I think another thing with that is that most people, I remember seeing this quote somewhere and it really stuck with me. Most people don't know how good their body is designed to be.
Yes.
Right? When we get into the cycle of, you know, you drink on the weekend and then you're hungover and you're eating bad food, and you get used to feeling a certain amount of inflammation in your body. You get used to feeling a certain way in your gut, in your stomach, in your joints, in your head. And that becomes your normal, right? Like, we are, as human beings, we're very adaptive, and that's our strength. But I think sometimes when we adapt to things that we necessarily shouldn't be, it becomes a weakness because we get used to this new normal, where our new normal doesn't actually feel great. And then when we start to make these little changes and we see, oh wow, you know, like, I like waking up not being hungover. Oh wow, like, when I eat well, I row so much better, you know, the next day. I'm more fueled, I'm stronger. Like, I notice a huge difference if I haven't eaten enough good food the day before my row. My times won't be as good. And then if I make sure that I'm eating enough of those right foods, then the next day I feel so much stronger, and your recovery is going to be so much quicker.
It gives you momentum for the next day. You
Exactly.
want to go and use
Exactly.
this fuel for good.
Yeah.
When you eat like shit,
Yeah.
of course you want to go on the couch. You don't go
You
to
don't
the gym,
feel good.
you're embarrassed, you don't feel good, like you don't know
Yeah.
what to do there. Like it's this crazy snowball
Yeah.
effect. So I
Yeah.
think it's funny how you do these little things.
Yeah. I think sometimes writing it down can
Yeah.
be a really useful tool.
So you
right?
have a journal or
I don't, but I have in the past. So definitely when I was training on the national team,
you do like weekly goals, monthly goals, or do you just do daily stuff?
I would write down, so it depended on what I was working on at the time. So when I raced, I rode in a weight category, so I had to be under a certain weight. So it's lightweight rowing. And for me, it was difficult because you have a fair amount of muscle, and so your percent body fat is quite low, and it's below where women are naturally sitting. And so it was difficult to stay there, and then also difficult to perform there. And so I had to be really careful about, what I was eating, making sure that I was eating the right things to be fueled, but also making sure that, because my body didn't want to be where I was. My body was trying to hold on to everything, which is natural. That's its job, right? And so I had to be weighing food. I had to be counting calories. I had to be very, planned and regimented with it. And so for me, I had to journal what I was eating. I had to journal what was going in. I had to make sure that I was tracking to make sure that I was getting enough protein, getting enough carbs, eating enough vegetables. And so that was really helpful for me. And that was the only way that I could stay on track with that. Now with the studio and having this goal of racing in 2 weeks, I find that I'm able to juggle about 3 things, right? And I think the magic number for most people is 4, and maybe I kind of have a 4, but I can run the business, I can teach the classes, because that's sort of a separate thing. There's the business side of it, and then there's the instructor side of it. And right now I'm kind of wearing 2 hats. I can do that, and I can kind of keep things somewhat organized at home with my family, and I'm, preparing to race. I find when I start to add on more things than that, that's when
like a high degree, like a lot of volume behind something,
or just another competing interest, right? So if I decided, I want to have, host a special event at Scullhouse, or if I want to, even have a party, or if I want to, it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but that 5th thing,
it's true.
excuse me, becomes hard to juggle, right? Because we only have a certain capacity. So I think sometimes it's prioritizing, okay, what's important to me right now, recognizing that we have a limited amount of energy. We can't do everything. So what's important to me this week? And sometimes I will write those things down to help me stay on track with it. That's one thing that I'm trying to do more of, because I'm not doing that routinely, and I notice a huge difference when I do it. I don't sort of forget about certain things. I don't get off track, and it helps me be more productive and stay on track. But I think also recognizing that, okay, we have this limited amount of time, limited amount of energy, and we also can't be busy and productive all the time.
No,
we need to have some downtime. We need to have some time to rest and recuperate, whether that's taking the dog for a walk, whether it's sitting and staring at the wall, whether it's watching a show on Netflix, whatever it is for you, you need to have that time. And so figuring out, okay, so this week or this month or this year, what are the things that I'm prioritizing? And maybe it means that some of those other things that would be nice to do, you can't focus on right now. And that's okay, right? Because we can't do it all. I think that's a big fallacy.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because last night I'm going over, I was kind of stressing a bit, right? Because I'm writing out all the shit I have to do, and I'm juggling projects. I'm trying to do this corporate consulting, and I write an ebook and all this other shit, right? And then I got a TEDx thing to an event that I'm organizing, right? And it's like, for a second I step back and I'm like, God damn, Bram, like you wanted to be so ambitious this year, but it's like, it feels like you're almost kind of in a rut being busy, because I'm not checking things off. It's like I'm doing a little bit of here, a little bit of there, but like that's not complete, and this still has to do some work. So I took the time last time. I'm like, hey, let's just jot down all my things I need to get done this month. And I was like, right, so let's make this a priority, rather than doing like, I'm going to work my ebook for a couple hours this morning, then I'm going to work on my online program, and then I'm going to work on a little TEDx. Like, that's a lot of shit that won't feel like I'm building momentum. So I was like, all right, let's dial back. Let's make next week ebook week, right? maybe online week, and then my boot camp week, and just focus on those things. And then the week after, then I can secure a venue. Then I can talk about a speaker.
Yeah.
And it really helped me, because at one point I was like looking at like the 10 things I got going, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing to yourself, man? Like, you got to get some shit crossed off, or you're gonna feel way burned out very soon. So it was cool that you mentioned that, because that's what I had to do that. I'm like, all right, let's just start checking things off the list. Because if not, they're gonna keep piling up.
Yeah. And I remember feeling this way when I was practicing law too. Sometimes it's so overwhelming when you have all of these competing things that I would just feel as though my wheels were spinning, and I didn't even know where to start. And then I would try to, as you said, do a little bit of this and then a little bit of that, and you don't feel as though you're actually accomplishing anything. And so when you say, okay, well, these are the 3 things, or these are the 4 things that have to happen today, and then you just 1, 2, 3, 4,
you get them done.
Then you start to feel more in control, because you can see yourself making progress, and you can see yourself making headway.
That's big.
That's really big. And I think that was part of, that was something that I did as I was opening as well. Because sometimes when you think about, well, all of these things for the build out have to happen, and we have to order towels, and we have to order garbage cans, and we have to order, there are all of these things that have to happen. Saying, okay, well, what do I have to do today? What are the things that have to get done today? And what are the things that have to get done tomorrow, and this week, and this month? And just breaking it down. And so I feel like we keep getting sidetracked on these other stories, which is awesome. But yeah, so we opened.
You can never finish a conversation with me. Keep going.
But I did open.
A dog out there. What kind of dog is it?
Oh yes, it's slipping in the snow. It's snowing now. And so I did leave law. It took me that 2 years, and then we opened. And since opening, it's been sort of a whirlwind of ups and downs and different emotions. I've definitely been enjoying the journey, and I enjoy the work in a way that is new for me. It's very challenging. I think sometimes people hear that I was a lawyer and they're like, oh, well, don't you miss sort of thinking and working your mind in the same way? And I don't actually miss that. There are sometimes aspects of it that I miss, but it's very challenging to be continuously thinking about, okay, how are, we going to market this month? What promotions are we going to run? How do I make the classes, more accessible for more people? How do I tweak things to try and make it better for everybody? Because every workout I'm trying to improve on what I did last time. You're trying to make sure that all of your trainers are at the top level that they can be. So I think that, you can be challenging yourself in whatever you're doing if you're trying to be the best that you can be with what you're focusing on at the time. And so we've changed our classes a fair amount since we first opened. The format has changed, and we've sort of grown and evolved. We have, a lot of people that we've kind of converted and now really believe in indoor rowing, which is super cool. And it's something that, it's an industry that's growing. We've now seen that we were the first to open in Canada using the Concept 2. Cool. And there's now a gym that has opened in Calgary. There's one that's opened in Vancouver. There's one that's opened on the East Coast. And unfortunately, there's another one that's going to be opening in Toronto. But we are Canadian, owned by a Canadian. We are not an American franchise. So support the local guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Good people doing that, which is good. It's exciting that the community is growing, because it shows that people are obviously taking to this, right? But then hopefully they just don't open up next door. But then you'll have some problems, right? So
potentially,
And then, sorry, I want to talk about your diet really quick in terms of because you're obviously leading up for competition, and I think a lot of people that are going to watch this are going to be high level performers. So what is a practical diet for you when you're not performing, and then when you are performing, what do you kind of like to?
So I will be really honest and say that my diet is an area where I am not very good. So I eat healthily, but I don't plan it as much as I should, and I'm not as knowledgeable as I probably should be. So for me, I know enough that I'm doing a lot of the right things, but I could probably be doing.
So you're basically kind of like, I'm not going to eat sugar. It's not going to eat it, or not eat, but like you're going to try to like limit those.
I eat. So I'm celiac, so I don't eat a whole lot of sort of refined carbs, anyways, just because of that. And I tend to eat pretty healthily, just normally. I try not to think about what I eat in terms of restrictions in black and white, because when I was rowing and racing lightweight, it's very easy. I'm a very obsessive person. So I'm a, type AAA is sort of, what I say. And when I fixate on something, I fixate on it. And I can become super analytical to the point where it becomes detrimental for me. So I don't eat X. My husband bought a bag of chips on the weekend and I was racing on Sunday and I'm like, seriously? And yeah, did I have one handful? Yeah, I did. Sure. Is that going to make or break my performance?
Probably.
No. Did I?
Did you lose?
That was your,
that was
no, I won.
Oh, okay. It did.
Right. But, so I think that often we can get sucked into, I've got to do all of these things perfectly. I do, 98% of things right.
Yeah.
And
could give yourself some leeway, right?
Yeah, and could I be tweaking things a little bit? And could I be where I think I don't know a whole lot is about supplements, right? So in the morning, I don't eat before I train. My stomach just doesn't deal well with having food in it when I'm training hard. I've never been able to do that very well. So I have sort of a pre-energizer drink. That's all I'll do. So one that I've used a lot in the past is the Vega pre-workout energy drink. And I'll have that. And that's basically it. If for whatever reason I'm feeling hungry, well, I'll have a handful of almonds or, I make a smoothie that I have afterwards. Maybe I'll have a spoonful of my smoothie. So it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just I kind of listen to how I'm feeling. And then I do try to make sure that I'm getting in some good recovery foods after my workout. So immediately after my workout, I have a smoothie. And in my smoothie, I put a banana, I put frozen blueberries, I put chocolate almond milk, I put a scoop of my, protein powder, I put chia seeds, hemp seeds, and 2 full handfuls of mixed greens. Like there's a lot of mixed greens in there. Yeah. And then you blend it up, and with the chocolate almond milk, it just tastes like chocolate.
That's awesome.
So it's quite tasty for me.
So easy to
now,
do too, right?
Yeah. Well, especially now that I've got to give props to my aunt. She got me a Vitamix.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And oh my goodness, that thing is awesome because I was trying to mix stuff in my little blender that I had before. The greens really didn't mix very well. So now I can put as many greens in there as I want.
Is that deadly?
Oh my goodness, it just pulverizes it.
Can you pick whether it's like a thicker smoothie or like just really drinkable?
Depending on how quickly you blend it, so on the speed that you put it on, and there might be other things that you can do too. I'm pretty novice with my Vitamix at this point, but if I want it to be creamier and thicker, I'll mix it for longer.
Okay.
And if you freeze your banana before you put it in your smoothie, oh my goodness, it's kind of like frozen yogurt.
Wow.
It's awesome.
I like that.
Yeah. So for everybody out there who's listening, freeze your bananas and put it in your smoothie, especially if you use a chocolate
So you're taking the peel off.
You take the peel off before you freeze it. Yes.
For a second, I'll take a banana and toss it in the freezer.
No. You gotta peel it because if you're trying to peel it after it's frozen, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So peel it, put it in a little baggie, freeze it, and then pop it in your smoothie the next day, and it's so good. So I have that, and then I'll typically have, just because I tend to be at the studio in the mornings, so I might do an instant oatmeal or I might do some sort of bar, but I'm trying to get in a little bit more carbs, and that bar will often have some more protein.
Yeah, you can do like protein carbs too, right? You can do like dextrin or something like that, or dextrose, what it's called, or like a nice simple carbohydrate or low glycemic one. So there's some cool ones to get in there, right? Like powder, like Vitargo.
Oh,
You just put the powder in there, super clean, super lean.
And then I could do it here, and that would be easy.
Yeah.
See, learning, obviously. I need to talk to you about
I got you.
And then, so when I'm at the studio, I'll typically, I am not organized enough that I'm packing my lunch with me. So around the corner, there's this great place called Be Good, and I get a chicken salad. So it's pretty, it's like a baked chicken breast, or grilled, I think. But it doesn't have anything on it, just some spices. And then I have the salad. It's got avocado. It's got.
That's what people got to add. They got to add stuff like that because the fats are going to keep you fuller longer. You're going to get energy. Sure. So you need to put that kind of stuff in there.
And I am not afraid of nuts. I eat a ton of nuts because I know that my diet is low in fat otherwise. So I'm not afraid of those good fats, right? I'm not eating fried foods. I'm not eating, despite my handful of potato chips the other day, right? I don't get a lot of fat from other sources, and I'm a pretty low dairy person. And so for me, having that avocado is great. Having those nuts, I know that fat is important, and I'm not afraid of it. And then I'll try and have another snack before I teach in the evening. So whether that's, a bar, whether I have a banana and some cottage cheese, whether I have an apple, but I'll try and have some carb and protein as a snack. Trying always to combine some protein when I'm eating, because I think that it helps to stabilize blood sugar and it helps us to stay full longer. And then I tend to eat dinner a little later than I would like to, just because when I get home from the studio, by the
European
time
stuff.
Yeah, but I think that for me, I don't like going to bed within an hour of eating. I'd like to be able to walk around and digest a little more before I go to bed. So ideally, I'd be eating a little earlier than that. And I know I tend to feel better when I do. But on evenings when I'm teaching here in the evening, by the time I get home, it's 7:30 or 8, and I'll eat dinner. And sometimes that'll be an omelet with lots of veggies, turkey, spinach, some cheese. But
so easy though to eat healthy.
Yeah.
Like I think people sometimes they get overwhelmed with like what do I eat?
Yeah.
So just eat good shit and make it taste good. Like don't make it bland.
And
like
it
that sounds
doesn't
amazing.
have to be anything complicated, right? And I'm not somebody that I appreciate good food, but I'm also not afraid of kind of having a routine.
Well, just simple.
And doing the same kinds of things, because it makes it easier for me.
I don't think going home and having like a big recipe to make. Yeah. Unless you're making that for like on a Sunday night and you're gonna have that for the next 5 days. Yeah. For sure. But like trying to hold yourself like, I'm gonna try this new creative recipe daily. Maybe do it once a week. You'll make it like a fun little date night or whatever it is. But try to find foods that are easy, practical, and that taste good and
like things that you're comfortable, right? Yeah. With if you know how to make a killer stir fry, well then have stir fry a couple times a week, right? Like stir fry is great. You can put whatever protein in there that you want. You could do tofu, you can do and then load it up with vegetables. Like that's a really healthy and pretty easy meal. So find something that is sort of your comfort meal that you know how to make really well. Or if it's nothing, then find one recipe, right? And learn how to make it really well so that can be your go-to. So that you're not scrambling and wondering, okay, what am I going to do?
No, you can't do that.
And you just keep your fridge stocked with that, so that if you're kind of running out of time, running out of energy, you know that you can at least do that.
And it's one less decision you have to make. Yeah. Like it's the decision fatigue adds up, right? And at the end of the day, you're at work making decisions all day long. Yeah. Now you got to decide to go to the gym or not, which you should get your ass up in the morning at the gym if that's the case. Yeah. And then you decide what to eat. So naturally, you're going to go to the most convenient thing, which is usually the shittiest thing, right? Where there's some freezer food you throw in there. And it's one less decision to make. Like I hate going in the fridge and looking there for 3 minutes. I'm like, I'm insane. I'll go into the fridge, not see anything, look around the cupboards, I'll go back in the fridge as if like a chicken's going to pop up. Brandon, bro, like you got to make this stuff in the meantime. I usually do. Yeah. My brother moved out before he was the chicken guy, so he'd make 6 chickens for the week, each of us, and like we're okay. Like we eat 6 days. Like it's not gonna go bad or anything like that. Yeah. We have a whole thing of chicken. I would take care of like the rice or whatever. But we had our food. Yeah. And we were good. Open up the fridge and like I'm still doing it, but it's like some days you forget. You're like, damn. Yeah. Oh, there's chicken in there, right? Yeah, so tonight I'll go home and make. But I'm gonna make 6 chickens, and then like I know my meals. It's very easy for me. Like I'm consistent, but again I can mix it up with like if I'm doing a organic non-GMO hamburger, I can make that a turkey burger. So it's not like people are gonna like you're eating the hamburger or beef every day. It's like no, you can switch that up, right? Yeah. So, but I do have a consistent routine enough to eliminate the headache of what am I eating. Yeah, and I do think that our body gets used to digesting certain things, and then we can learn when we're somewhat consistent with our eating habits. We learn what we feel good eating and what we don't. And when you're always kind of, on the go and so sort of chaotic with what you're fueling with, I think it makes it a whole lot harder to identify what are the foods that work well for me and what are the foods that don't. Yeah. And when you start to introduce some consistency, you'll notice, okay, Monday, I feel really good. This is what I ate on Sunday. Tuesday, I feel really good. This is what I ate on Monday. And you can start to identify, okay, so these are the things that work for me. And, oh, geez, like something was off today.
And you can then identify, oh, well, this was new, so maybe that's something that I shouldn't be doing for me. Because I do think that we all have our own sensitivities, we all have our own sort of, our body likes certain things, and starting to pay attention to that, right? Starting to pay attention to what fuel really makes you feel good and perform well. And that's going to help you, focus mentally with the job. It's going to help you perform at the gym. It's going to help you with everything in your life. And when you feel better, again, you're more likely to go to the gym. You're more likely to take the time to make that meal that is healthy.
Yeah, it's huge, like everything, right? So the small things we do daily that are going to make the big difference in the long term, right?
Yeah.
So
we'll
probably go on for another 6 hours here. Who knows if this is still taping? Hopefully it still is. We're good. But where can people find you? Obviously, Scullhouse.
Yeah. So
Jarvis
we're at 35 Jarvis.
Yeah.
So we're just north of Front Street, just south of King.
St. Lawrence Market right there.
Kitty corner to the St. Lawrence Market. Yeah. And we have classes 7 days a week. Typically, we have 4 or 5 classes a day. And all of our instructors are either ex-rowers or have been trained by me on the rowing machine. So I was on the Canadian national team, competed at the World Championships. Another one of our instructors also competed at numerous World Championships. A bunch of our instructors were collegiate rowers, and then we have some instructors that were spin instructors or personal trainers. A couple are actors, and then we've trained them, with good form. So when you come in, you'll learn how to row well. You'll learn how to row with good technique in a fun, supportive, challenging environment.
Yeah, I think everyone should try it. They really should.
Thank you.
No, honestly, though, it's just another aspect you can add to your life.
Yeah.
And regardless if you live in the Toronto area or not, like I said, I'm not from Toronto, so it's not easy to manage, but who knows? It could always work out.
Yeah.
But give yourself a shot, and then if you ever find yourself in the area again, you got a place that you can row and get a hell of a workout in, right? And you can take those concepts, bring it back, and it's just
it's a good piece of equipment to know how to use properly, because it can be very high intensity, but it's still low impact. And so it's something that is good for your body to be doing, rather than so many of the exercises that sometimes we're drawn to are actually a bit hard on us.
Put a lot of stress in the body.
Exactly. This is something that's actually really good for you. And so if you learn how to do it properly, then you can just pick it up at any gym, or you can, if you have one in your basement that's been collecting dust, right? Then you know what to do, and you have some ideas for workouts that you can do too.
For sure. Love it. Pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming in and chatting.
Absolutely. All right. We're done. We're done, so.